Sam Farmer joins me here on the Rich Eisen Show with a team back in Los Angeles, being the Los Angeles Rams. Of the LA Times, a man who's been keeping the light on here in Los Angeles, Sam Farmer. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing great, Rich. Thank you. Yeah, it got to a point where I could just stand up. He'd say, and I'd sit right back down, and he'd answer the question. So it went on autopilot.
Yeah. I mean, can you believe that this is actually happening?
No,
Sam?
it's surreal. I was thinking about doing my annual, we get in the routine here, and I'm thinking, okay, the combine plans. Wait a second. LA's got a team. We got to send a couple people to the combine this year.
Uh-huh.
I mean, LA's got a team. You think about mini camps. You think about the draft. Those things where you could almost be a sideline observer to this stuff. Now LA has a horse in the race, and it's pretty remarkable.
So you interviewed Stan Kroenke for the LA Times. It's in today's editions. What did you take away from that interview? What intrigued you most of the new owner of the new Los Angeles franchise, Sam?
Just how relaxed he was and emotional. At one point started crying. I don't know Stan well. I have talked to him at meetings before, never on the record. But his emotions really came to the surface, and almost like the weight of the world lifted off this guy. And really, now he's the dog who's caught the bus, because it's getting going at LA in this mega complex that he's doing, and clearly he has the wherewithal to do it. But the game only starts now. I was thinking this is like, for him, probably winning a Super Bowl, winning this LA Derby, and yet the Super Bowl is the conclusion of something. This is the beginning of something.
Now, one of the quotes from your interview that's getting a lot of play, if you will, certainly on social media today, was your answer. The answer he gave you when you questioned, how do you feel about leaving St. Louis? And he mentioned the word bittersweet to you, as he did in the press conference. Just mentioned that I never dreamed I'd be put in this position about leaving St. Louis, quote unquote, but at the same time, you're not going to sit there and be a victim. What did you think of that when you heard the word of describing himself as a victim?
Well, certainly the red flag went up. He's got his side of the story. St. Louis has its side of the story, and never the two shall meet. He felt that this was baked into the lease, that he had the ability to leave, and that St. Louis acted sooner. He might have been able to get something done there. St. Louis obviously feels that this guy is evil incarnate, and I just don't know that will ever be resolved. And for the Los Angeles market, which I was writing this Q&A for, the look was basically forward for Los Angeles. And clearly, I mean, I've been in markets, I've lived in markets, I've covered teams in markets that have been left, and I understand the bitterness and the anger and the betrayal that those people feel.
Do you think St. Louis gets a team at some point?
I think there's a chance of that. The NFL has never not returned to a market that is left. Every market that's been vacated has been backfilled by a team, sometimes twice. And obviously this is the second time a team has left St. Louis. They did more than Oakland or San Diego to keep their team, but the league looks at Oakland and San Diego, or the East Bay and San Diego, as more viable markets. And so I don't know how soon a team will return to St. Louis, but I suspect one will ultimately.
Well, we have an affiliate in Jacksonville, Florida, here on the Rich Eisen Show, and people always take Shad Khan and know where he's from, and with the St. Louis market open, or say London, as you know, is getting more and more buzz within the halls of power within the NFL. Do you think that this whole equation might equal Jacksonville having to keep their ear to the ground, Sam?
Yes, this could be a domino, the first domino to fall. But I don't think Shad Khan would be going to St. Louis, even though you would think from his background the breadcrumbs would lead there. I think his eye's on London. So if a team moves to London, I think that team's going to be Jacksonville.
No kidding. How would that work in London?
I don't know.
Have you heard?
To me, it's inconceivable. You got to button down the league. You have to take care of the cities in the U.S. first. But clearly the league is has these great aspirations of expanding internationally, and London is seen as a very viable and lucrative market. So, but I think you'd need to add an extra bye week. Probably you'd have to have different training arrangements, and I don't know how you'd market a team in the off season, how you'd attract free agents to come move their family overseas. It just seems like it would be rife with complications.
LA
But
Times.
they got LA
Sure.
checked off.
Yeah, LA Times, Sam Farmer joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So the Rams now are trying to find offices? Are they figuring out, do they go back to the old uniforms? Are these the conversations that they're having right now, rebranding and things of that nature?
Yes, I mean, part of that is the case. There's a lot of TBD. Where are we going to set up training facilities? Where are we going to practice temporarily for mini camps? All of those things. A lot of temporary basis kind of stuff in terms of uniforms. They want to have uniforms that are hybrid, that are a nod to the past and the nostalgia of the LA Rams, but also a look forward. But I was with Kevin Demoff and Stan yesterday, along with Nathan Fennell, my colleague, and they were handing a surface pad back and forth, looking at the new logo with Los Angeles Rams, and they were sort of in disbelief. It was almost surreal. They were looking at it, but they had several logos up of the LA Rams. So it's already started.
Let's talk San Diego. What do the Chargers do now, Sam? What are they thinking right now in the Spanos halls in San Diego?
Well, that's a difficult situation. They're almost a man without a country because the well has been so poisoned in San Diego, and the relationship is so acrimonious. You wonder if they can move forward on a stadium deal now. And then the other side of that is every day that goes by, it becomes more and more cemented in people's minds that LA is a one-team town. And there's not a big fan base for the Chargers in Los Angeles, no matter what anybody says. And so you wonder, well, maybe if he can cut a deal to be a partner with Stan, which there are those parameters out there, the league is going to make Stan play nice to be a partner on this new stadium complex in Inglewood. But to be a tenant in Inglewood, I just don't see how that would be any better than San Diego, where that was a pretty good market as it is and a pretty attractive market. So if they leave San Diego, I do think that there will be other teams eyeing that San Diego market saying we can make it work there.
Could that be the Raiders?
It could be. It could be. And, another concept, I don't see Mark Davis doing this necessarily, his attachment to his dad and everything, but if you were to leave the Raiders marks and logos in Oakland as the Browns did in Cleveland and move that franchise just as an NFL franchise and rebrand it in a new city, that could be – I don't see there's any appetite at all or indication that Mark would want to do that, but that might be a one way to move that team, and then when there's expansion to create the new Oakland Raiders.
So, I mean, at least with San Diego, there's a stadium for them to play in this fall if they choose in some way, shape, or form to not take the Inglewood option. Oakland doesn't even have a lease. What are the Raiders doing right now, Sam?
Yeah, and very difficult situation for the Raiders. Maybe they can work something out to play in that stadium. Maybe they could play in Santa Clara, although, that would upset a lot of people. But there are emergency options. But this has created a very difficult situation for two teams. And, there's really no place in L.A. right now for a second team to play. Only one NFL team could play at the Coliseum as the lease currently exists. So, this is the most complex relocation situation the NFL has ever had to deal with.
So last question for you, Sam. At some point, somebody had to sit down with Dean Spanos and Mark Davis and tell them what time it is that you not have to go back to your cities and deal with that. And Dean, you get your first crack at Inglewood, and if you don't want it, Mark Davis, it's yours. Was that the commissioner who had to sit them down and give that brutal reality check to two partners of the NFL?
My understanding is the commissioner and the L.A. committee. who had to do that, and people were not happy in that room. Certainly, Dean and Mark were not happy, and it was clearly reflected when they stood up there on the dais as Stan was talking. In fact, they came up, they made their statement. I think the league wanted to show a unified front, but before the press conference is over, both Dean and Mark left. I thought Mark was very gracious in congratulating Stan, and Dean read a statement. So they're clearly not happy, but they have a little bit of time for this to sink in, but then they've got to get moving on what their solution is.
And they were the 2 no votes, as best you can tell.
Not sure about that because it was a secret vote, and that was an important element of this, and I just can't believe that Jerry Richardson would vote for the other project. He was so vocal and supportive of the other one, so that's a very interesting mystery. Who were the no votes? We don't know that. Nobody said, but Jerry Richardson was banging the table pretty hard for that Carson plan.
Sam, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. Come in studio, see what's going on down here next time.
Absolutely.
Okay?
You're the best, Rich.
You
really
too.
Appreciate it.
Same to you. Sam Farmer at LA Times Farmer. He's been covering this story for over 2 decades. And now there's a team to cover here in Los Angeles.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.